What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Thursday night live show here at the garage. We've got some fire going down the chat already. What's going on, Redneck American? Probably from my neck of the woods. Shane, it's good to see you, my brother. We got Demon and Wendell up in here. Redneck says, seen your math tuning video, Rose in Lambda. Okay, so what you're asking about, your little, so yeah, yours is in pound per hour. The one that's in Lambda is our error percentage. We're looking at our wideband reading versus our commanded Lambda, and that generates a percent of error. So if we're 10% off on our fueling, we get a 10% there. We're adjusting that pounds per hour in your math curve, that 10%. So, what's going on, STI? Come on. Detuned. Much love back down to Houston. I lived in Katy for, 2 years? Year and a half? Somewhere around there. Traffic. Terrible. Oddly enough, though, the drivers around Pittsburgh are way worse. I don't know how it's even possible. What up, Mark? So, this weekend we are wrapping up the wiring, hopefully on the core. Yeah, Redneck. That video will work for you. Just make sure you set up your math properly, and then, as I said, you get your error percentage and apply that to the pounds per hour. So, yeah. So just a couple small things to do on the wiring side, like hooking up power. Is there any news about coyotes? I don't know. You hear them howling, Demon? Is there any news as far as me working on coyotes? No. I need to find, I just need to find like somebody local that's got a coyote so I can use it for a week or two. I've got to know somebody that's got a coyote. But, generally, if they're Ford fans, I steer clear of them. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. Oh, man, I've been up since 4 o'clock, so I might be a little bit delirious tonight. Bear with me. It's been a long day. So, what else new? Chat, we're quiet. The garage is, or Mrs. Garage is away watching Post Malone tonight. What's the biggest V table you've seen? I'm working on ECU with a 32 by 127. Whew. That's pretty dang big. I mean, Mark, how many pounds of boost are they running on that one? I think Rob Showmaker is a coyote goat. I don't know, man. I'm just not involved in that world at all. I don't know who the good Ford guys are. What I need to do is get Brandon Lieb on. Maybe I can get him on next Thursday, and he'll know that kind of stuff. Yeah, Morel, send that over to the info at Go Garage website for the 4200. I'll take a look at. Pete, hey man, I'm putting some red top 30-pound SVO injectors into an LS1. What tables do I need to modify other than the IFR? So on the early stuff, you're going to have... Man, you're asking me to remember off the top of my head. There's only like 3 or 4 tables on the early stuff. You'll have... let me just open one up. I don't even know if I've got an LS1 tune file. I'll look and see. Oh, here we go. 98 Firebird. That'll be pretty close. You'll need offset, short pulse limit, and short pulse adder. So those 4 tables are your critical ones. So you'll have flow rate versus KPA. Minimum injector pulse, you can probably leave that the same. If you have a hard time controlling the injectors at idle, as in it stays rich even though you've pulled fueling out of whatever you're using, VE or MAF, you can try lowering that down. You'll end up hitting a minimum injector pulse where the thing just doesn't fuel worth a dang. Demon, he is literally working on them right now. New Coyote courses. I know that for a fact. I haven't talked to him in a week or so. What up, Dale Soul? Each bit of map ABDC gets its own value instead of calculating grams per cylinder, whatever. Did some 23,000 RPM bench test with signal generator and oscilloscope. Looking pretty stable. That's impressive, Mark. Each bit of the map analog digital conversion gets its own value. Okay. So, he's still running on one bar and just blowing out and making the table high resolution, essentially, is what you're doing on the virtual VE. Bet Steve Moore's son is all over those Fortunes. Who's his son? I don't know. I wouldn't, between you and me, I wouldn't trust Steve Morris to tune my Chevy Spark, much less build a motor for it. Can you run a Coyote on E85 without flex fuel? It's got to have wideband. It's got to have wideband, factory widebands on there so it can do inference. That's a cool idea, Mark. I'll have to look, dive into some of that stuff. Okay, sounds good, Morale. I will take a look at it and get back to you. Kyle Morse. Well, at least he's got the right name. Dude, it's been a nightmare, De La Soul, and thank you for watching the entire thing. It's so much. The next video is going to be a lot shorter and a lot more to the purpose because we're diving into finding signals like, key position on, stuff like that. And I'm going to I'll be working on both the TCM and the ECM side, but I'm going to split them up into two separate things. So anybody that's looking at using like the turbolambic in the I just said future because of Andrew's stuff. It'll be useful information. There's some goofy things that you have to do for the adaptive learns, even on the turbolambic stuff. Let's see, what do we see? No, on LT engine without flex fuel, only adjust the stoic. Yeah, you can do that. Just be careful. I mean, do cuts on your fuel to verify your ethanol, or if you're getting it out of a can or something, race setup, and that you're getting legitimate 85. Yeah, you totally can do that without running a sensor or anything like that. And essentially, your stoic table in the GM world uses the flex fuel sensor. So whatever is at zero stoic that's what's going to change. You'll change that to whatever your stoic value is, and now that should ballpark the rest of your tables. Then you'll have to do some dialing. You can look at the code, made a low effort demo video of progress so far, link in description, using a Pico. Cool. Okay. Mark, shoot me a link to it, man. So, email me a link over at info@GoRopeGarage, and I'll try and take a look at this weekend or probably Monday whenever I'm back in the office or something like that. I'd be interested in checking it out. I like it whenever people are trying new things. Okay, Red 94. Yeah, Jessica, we can talk transmissions, but I don't know that I'll be the guy to give you the answers you want. So I have a question. Back to 1999, is there a guy like you who does tuning on factory GM base files back in the day? Or is it like sophisticated engineer behind a desk like on a 5.3? No, it's a calibrator. So you'll have a guy more along the lines of Greg Banish. He is a calibrator more than he is a tuner. The guy is super smart. Obviously not a fan of me. I don't care. I cut into his bottom line too much. But he is smart. I will never sit here and try to convince you that Greg Banish is not a sharp guy when it comes to fuel injection. I think he is a net negative for the tuning community. I don't think he is a positive influence in the tuning community. When I'm trying to adjust short terms, a lot of problems have like RPM surge on idle. So what, Dima, what adjustments are you making on your short terms? Are you adjusting switching point and jazz like that? Like, give me a little more. Okay, swapping a 4L60 with 4LED. What parameters do I need to focus on updating? Oh, thanks, Shane. Honestly, the big stuff on that after you do the segment swap in Jessica, is use the gear, tire, whatever. But I'll be honest with you, just skip that. Go with the Bluecat transmission tool and walk through that. There's probably some videos out there. You can still find it, and I need to host it again. I used it literally the other day to make some tweaks on it, and it works so good on the 4 and 6 speeds. But you're using trims, Demon? Shane, had to leave Richard. Hey, Shane, whenever you left Richard, did you tell him that you were leaving Richard to come here? Yeah, Bluecat transmission tool. It's been around since the mid 2000s. Finding it can be a little bit hard. There is okay, I'm going to copy a link. This is where I got it from. Okay. That link, I was able to download it. The website looks a little bit sketchy. In fact, I don't like that. Let me see. Hold on. How about I get it and host it? I will host it real quick. Just to be safe. Because I know this is a legitimate version, so I need to open up give me a split second. Let's go. Bear with me. Oh, now I gotta authenticate. It was civilized and he started not to be? What? I was civilized, he started not to be. What happened? You know what? Don't spill the tea. We don't care. We don't care. Let's see here. Let's add a new file. And here we go. Let's do this. Upload. Okay, there it is. So let me make this file shareable. Share. Approvals. No, I just want to make it available to everybody. Manage access. Here we go. Anybody with the link? Okay, here we go. There we go. That is from my Google Drive. That is the Bluecat transmission tool. If you want a copy of it, grab it. There's probably some walkthroughs on YouTube. Silver Surfer have one. A table editor for my open source ECU. Mark, have you dove into ChatGPT and what it can do with Python? So Bluecat's transmission tool, you know what? Let me open it up real quick. Oh, you know what? I bet I don't have the requirements. If you run it, it will tell you that you need to download a specific version of .NET. Go ahead and do that. You're getting it from Microsoft. It's totally safe. It's probably going to pop up and, yep. It will I say that, okay, here. Let's just look at it. We'll go over to the whiteboard. And the whiteboard's on the wrong screen as usual. So let me remove this and let's add the right screen. Is it this one? Nope, that's this one. Desktop 2. Okay, there we go. So I can delete this one. Oop. Let's go full screen. That's interesting, Mark. I'd be interested to poke around with it. As I said, just get in touch with me. Okay, so, yeah, on Windows 11, if you don't launch it as administrator, it's going to pop up and say that you're protected. You can click that button and say run anyways. Oh, I've already got the stuff. So, essentially what you've got here is the different transmissions, 4L60, 65, 4L80, yada, yada. That's important. Next one is going to be your shift slope based on what you're working on. Cable or drive-by throttle or drive-by wire. So choose your correct jazz there. And then the next thing that you want to look at is stuff like your final drive and your tire size. Once you do all that, you come up here to export and it's going to tell you specifically what kind of ECU you're working on, 3, 4, 5. Well, I guess 3 or 4. It's not going to have 5 on here. And it's going to give you values. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Whenever you copy this stuff, you're going to have to come in here and highlight because a lot of these tables are split in two, like on the 4-speed stuff. This is going to align. Let me open up, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's go 2001 Silverado. Good enough. So we put this in the background. Move this out of the way. Let's go over to transmission. And so we're going to work with our shift tables first. So we're going to shift scheduling. And we are on a Gen 3 right here. Okay. So if you look here, this lines up 1 for 1, so you can do the copy table here and then paste this in. But some of the later ones, these tables are split into 2, so you'll have your upshift and downshifts on separate tables. Whenever you do that, you have to come over here, highlight the specific rows, and right-click and choose copy in order to then be able to paste them in there. Okay? So that's just kind of a quick overview, but as I said, there should be some videos out there talking about doing it. Okay. Okay, sounds good, Mark. I'll get back to you. Demon, what's the benefit? It is the quickest way to adjust shift points for a more aggressive transmission setup. It is, and I don't know how he figured out the logic or set the slopes and stuff like that, but it works great. I mean, it really does. Recommendation on if I should buy your layouts for 4200 stuff. No, I'd skip it because I guarantee you your tables are different, so you're going to end up, you might as well build them from scratch in that case. If you're not on a standard 5.3 6 liter 6.2 setup, they're not going to cover that. Off current topic shit, 266, 244, 118 pounds, negative 1.1 overlap cam and an LT4 have an aggressive idle chop. So, listen, I'm not the guy to talk to about cams, but I can't tell you what's happening probably, Wendell, is that your compensations that adjust to maintain idle are probably running too tight, making adjustments too well. So if you want some chop, specifically on the spark side, go in, look for any spark corrections that have plus or minus, whenever you start getting RPM error, and zero out its ability for like 75 or 100 RPMs. Give it some range to hunt, So let's look at an LT4. We might as well. No, don't want to save that. I will where is, go into my archive. Here's my Z06. I don't even know what this tune is, but if we come over here, oops, I'm on the wrong window, under engine. Commander Shepard's telling you how to go crazy. But yeah, essentially we're looking for idle spark control. We may have to go under the idle. So this being as torque, we're going to be looking at our immediate. And so our immediate is spark, predicted as airflow. And you see here, as soon as we get in 15 degrees, and this is in torque adjustments, but as soon as we get in 15 degrees, we're starting to make corrections. I'll take this and take it out to 75 or so, paste it in there, and then zero that out. Do the same thing on this side. Go out 75, paste it in. Zero those out. And then I will interpolate that so it has smooth. You don't want a huge torque because then you'll get some funky stuff. But now what you've essentially, that should be 0 too. What you've essentially done is you've created this big flat spot in here where it can hunt. And that will give you some chop. Yes, it did. It did. But play around with it. You can do it. You can tune it to how much you want. Any videos for setting up scan grass to read Gen 5? Yeah, there should be in the Gen 5 section. It's just like any other, set up your VVE graph to match what you're running. However many bars, and then just copy the data over into a graph and use your EQ error or your AFR error. Have a customer wanting a bang for the buck build 2018 LT53. What are you recommending? How much is he willing to spend, Detuned? So much spam. make a chow so hard sounds like a horse galloping in slow-mo. Just realize that you might have some issues down there. 8K, honestly, for 8K, I'd just throw a Pro Charger on it and be done with it. You leave literally everything stock and almost double the horsepower with 8K by throwing a blower on it. Depending on what the use is, you might look at a Whipple or something like that. But if you're doing naturally aspirated AK, the big stuff is going to be heads, cams, exhaust. That's what wakes up an LS or an LT. And an LT to a lesser extent because the heads are so much... LS heads are so much better than small block Chevy heads, than LT heads are even better than LS heads. But, if he had $1,500, I'd just say cam. Cam is always the answer when it comes to LSs and stuff like that. So... how do you know the LTDI injector is bad? You'll get misfires on it. With the fuel pump, are you talking about the high pressure fuel pump or the low pressure fuel pump? So there's different ways to look at it. If it's high pressure fuel pump is bad, it won't run. Low pressure fuel pump is going bad, you'll start leaning out and not be able to correct it. And if you look at the fuel pressure, you'll see that it starts to drop off at a certain point in the RPMs. What fuel system upgrade setup is the go-to? For something like that, nowadays you can do LT4 injectors and pump for fairly reasonable. Back in the day, it used to be super expensive. But they've come down, and that's going to give you enough throughput to get up into the 700-800 horsepower. Have you ever tuned for a Pro Charger and a turbo on the same motor? Together at the same time, like on a 5.3. Yeah, in fact, I did that on the Super Auto back in the day. So Listen, yeah, it's a bad idea. It's very interesting, though. Compound boost is very interesting. I had a small turbocharger that I rear mounted and fed the blower with, and it created tons of torque. But then it started choking the blower off on the top end, and so you got to really get into the weeds whenever you're looking at flow curves and stuff like that to make sure that everything's working in a way that works together. Opinion on fuel surge tank versus intake fuel pump upgrade. Okay, that's a great question, Andrew, because I literally do both, have done both. I've got a fuel surge tank on the Smoke Monster. It's nice, but man, does it take a ton of amperage to draw. Honestly, I would have, if I was to go back and do it again, I would do an inline, like an A1000 pump or something like that. The nice thing about it is, though, if you go with the surge tank, your in-tank pump then becomes a lift pump. And so you don't need hardly any fuel pump on that side. So you can run 1,000+ horsepower on a 255 liter per hour fuel pump because there's nothing that it's bucking against. There's no head pressure, stuff like that. You're just keeping the surge tank filled. And it's real easy to keep the surge tank filled at that point in time. So, and the reason I did that was specific to driving in the mountains. A lot of people were getting vapor lock and killing fuel pumps. That's one issue I've not had on the Smoke Monster, is killing the fuel pumps because of the setup that way. Is there any live data method can I use to know my injectors are bad? Yeah, log your misfires, your current misfire counters. Chased a random misfire at idle for about 2 weeks on my 17 EcoBoost Mustang. Ended up being a blown head gasket and broken valve spring. There's no other symptoms though I could find. Need help for map points for HB tuners. When they hit 100%, do I just take out timing or does torque control take over? You're going to have to elaborate on that for me, Mustang Pony 69. What up, Joseph? Yeah, high pressure fuel pump can make noise like a lifter. Leak fuel into the oil. But that's the thing, is like you actually have to look at pressures generally on those kind of setups. They're essentially the same setup. You know, you've got a lift pump in the tank that sends fuel to the high pressure. So it works much like having a surge tank set up on a non-DI. Yeah, you could do injector balancing and see if one's way out. Man, questions are flowing. Revving up math, trying to get good data up top. Basically, just long, slow pulls through the RPM, staying out of PE. That should be fine, Kenneth. You should... I mean, technically, I guess you could go to red line without getting into PE, but I would probably be turning on PE above 4,000, 4,500, your torque peak. So I would go back and look at that. Are you using a wideband though? I mean, are you tuning with narrow bands? Is that why you're staying out PE? Hey Schmidt, I see you. Oh, and there's Andrew asking the same question I just did. Aaron says, Gen 3 6-liter LS truck North Cam. What AFR do I shoot for? What is the percentage on Stoic AFR table? That's for flex fuel. You don't need to worry about that. You should be able to leave your Stoic AFR table completely alone. AFR, I mean, you're talking about when you're out of PE, you're going to be running standard 14.7-ish, and then under power enrichment, you're going to want to be targeting around 12.5. Well, the thing about it is, Demon, injector pulses are being sent regardless of the injector is responding or not. The ECU is still trying to trigger it. That doesn't mean that it is actually triggering the injector and sending the fuel out. But you should be getting, if you have a bad injector, you will get misfires on that hole. No, you can get into PE as long as you're using a wideband. Should I be able to get started in tuning with map, EQ, spark, trims, and EQ airgraphs? I mean, that's pretty much everything that you're going to need for those setups. Make sure I haven't missed anything here. Mustang Pony 69, elaborate more. I'm still trying to think of what you're talking about here. Need help on for map points in HB tuners when they hit 100%. Do I just take out timing, or does torque control take over? Give me some more details. Yeah, well, the big thing is you want to stay out of transient conditions, Kenneth, because that's whenever the weight starts shifting to the VE table. You want to keep it as smooth. So, keep smooth, but you should be able to go wide open throttle early on. You know, maybe even put it in a higher gear that's going to have quite a bit of load on it. I know it's going to be scary, but go like third gear and just wide open throttle that thing. Once the pedal gets settled in, it's going to go over into more of a steady state mode and get you good MAF data. What's the maximum long terms can reach? It depends on the platform. It's 25 to 50%. But you probably need to map the individual bank long term so you can see. Yeah, 25 plus minus 25 on E67. Later stuff, I think DI stuff will do up to 50 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and Andrew brings up a good point. The curve should look like a curve. You can tune out past where you have data. Just kind of maintain the shape. If not, you know, and when in doubt, make it tail up faster. So it's just going to go rich, if anything. Man, some great questions. Luckily, even though I am sleep deprived, I did get a short nap, so. Yeah, exactly. What Schmidt is saying, have one table for bank 1 and one table for bank 2. You'll see, what you'll end up seeing is if you've got an injector bat on one bank, that wideband data or narrowband data will peg out. What is it, high or low? I can never remember if high is lean. I think, is it low is lean? But it'll stop switching. You won't see the voltage jump around. But as I said, it should be picking up on misfires. No, you don't need, as long as you have a wideband, you don't have to stay out PE, Kenneth. Looking at a Gym 5 cam that has plus 14% on fuel lobe, is there a table that should be added to first before VVE and MAF? Yeah, there's going to be a few tables that have to be adjusted, and they should have provided you that data, so you might want to reach out to them because it's going to be under your fuel system. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you're going to have some. So if we go over to the whiteboard here, underneath our fuel pump here, this is our high pressure fuel pump. So stuff like your duration and your events per cycle may change depending on how they do that. And then they may have some data that they want you to plug into some of these tables there. So reach out to them. They should have that data for you. Okay? Tuned a Mustang 2 days ago, and this code P061A was activated. P061A. That sounds like an airflow. Oh, internal control module torque performance, meaning the PCM has detected a problem with the engine torque monitoring system. Excessive torque. The PCM may read a torque value that exceeds the allowable limit, possibly doing due to aftermarket modifications or other factors. So it sounds like it's probably, see, Andrew, it's probably after you got done tuning it, did it come back? Or was it kind of a one and done thing? Because if your airflow model was wrong and then you corrected your airflow model, that should have gone away. But Ford's using an inverse torque calculator. It's kind of like our virtual torque. So if you look at it here, we've got load. And then obviously we've got all of our tables that align with our speed density setup or whatever. But these are going to be the torque values, which look to be in crank torque, our engine torque. And so if you're exceeding that, that may be causing it also. There might be some funky stuff on the torque model. Oh God, I hate Fords. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, you've got all kinds of Max and Mins in here. And commanding 0.76 under hard acceleration up top, I know I'm rich. 0.76 is too rich. Are you boosted, Kenneth? I mean, that's even rich if you're boosted, man. I'd dial it back some. Right. Yeah, and that's exactly right. What Commander Shepard said, the torque tables line up with predetermined cam phasing angles, just like if you were to come in here and look at, am I on the right screen? Our airflow and our speed density. We've got all of these mapped points that tie into our variable camshaft. So you have to log your mapped points to see which table that you're on. Good old Fords. Good old confusing Fords. Okay, it's going to be about that time. I'm going to have to wrap it up on time tonight, guys, because Mr. Garage is gone, so the dogs are probably outside tearing something up right now. Over the past 35 years, I could have retired twice with the money I spent on my Grand National. A, that's a great car to be spending money on. And B, should I get rid of the old lady to free up more money? I can't answer that question for you, T54, but thank you for giving me a laugh. Morel, whenever you open up that table in the editor, right click on it and you can choose to invert it. So Demon, much like everything else, you can log your torque and then compare it back to the torque graphs based on which one you're in. Make sure that you're logging which table that you're using and see where you're exceeding and go in and bump those up. Yeah, Jessica says, depends on who's going to cook and clean. I mean, he's got a Grand National, though, so I feel like he probably wouldn't have a hard time finding a new old lady. And she would probably be understanding. No, if she has let you spend enough money to retire twice, you might want to keep her around. Yeah, exactly, Danny. Put the Maggie on, it was making too much torque when it reduced power mode. Pretty typical. Yep, Commander Shepard said you have to touch the inverse table for that map point as well. So, and D-Man, as I said, I'll try and get Brandon on here next week because I specifically talked to him recently about new Ford content. And if they've rolled that out, I'll do some videos on it, reviews on it. Do virtual torque tables have a huge effect? Warbird, you get the last question of the day. Do virtual torque tables have a huge effect on Gen 4 versus Gen 5? So Gen 4 torque tables are there for your transmission. So transmission, request power, say, hey, cut the power a little bit. I'm trying to shift over here. And it does through the torque tables. John, you caught the last 30 seconds of it. Now on Gen 5, everything is torque based, and torque is the most important thing to make sure it has sanity behind it, if it makes sense. Less of an issue on Gen 4, not an issue at all if you have a manual. I hate transmission tuning. Okay, listen, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody. Great crowd tonight. Great questions. Thanks for taking the time of joining us, and catch us next week. I'm going to be busy in the garage, so there's going to, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out. And, huge shout out to Commander for showing up. It's always great having some of these guys that have some knowledge on stuff like Ford sharing their knowledge. So thank you, everybody. You know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning. Where's my end screen? Uh-oh. I messed it up. How did I do that?